Good afternoon, everyone. It's Mr. Ryan, the principal of the Arts Academy, with our series, Arts Middle PLC Insider, where we take you inside our school to show you all the great stuff that we're doing in order to promote student learning in our school. So last week we talked about Intro to PLC. This week we are going to really define and discuss priority standards and the importance in schools. So today, again, define and discuss priority standards and the importance in schools. So what are priority standards? The book on the left, Make It Happen, is one of my all-time favorites that I study all the time. But what are priority standards? A carefully selected subset of the total list of the grade-specific and course-specific standards within each content area that students must know and be able to do by end of the school year in order to be prepared for the next year. So they are the most important, the most critical, the most essential standards that kids must learn. So a criteria for priority standards, our teachers look at 5 things. This is how we decide what are the priority standards, the most important standards that kids need. Number 1, the teacher's knowledge and expertise. So teachers build knowledge over the years on what is important. They meet in vertical teams, they meet in horizontal and subject specific teams, so there's a lot of learning going on. So the teachers have great knowledge on what is very important for kids to have for the next grade level. Readiness, so includes knowledge and skills important to succeed at the next level. So in 6th grade ELA, what must kids learn to be prepared for 7th grade ELA? 7th grade, what must they learn for 8th grade? Okay, the next one, endurance. It includes knowledge and skills that will last beyond the grade. Assessment alignment includes content likely to appear in classroom, district, or state assessment. And leverage includes knowledge and skills that cross multiple classes. So writing would be a great standard to show here because it has endurance, it has readiness, it's aligned to the assessment, and has leverage. So priority standards of writing is a key, and we promote kids to read and write and discuss in all classes. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, for priority standards, it means it helps us create a guaranteed and viable curriculum in the classroom. So this book, What Works in Schools, where they researched all the great schools in America, and this is the number one factor in making great schools, is making sure that kids have access to a guaranteed and viable curriculum. Guaranteed means they have access to the same priority standards, regardless who is teaching the class. That if there's 2 or 3 ELA classes, you are all teaching the same priority standards because every kid must have access to those standards. And then is it viable? Can it be taught in the time allotted? Okay, so how can we put all this research into practice? Well, one thing we did last year is we created flashback maps. So because we went home in March, we wanted to make sure that we figured out what exactly did our kids miss and where would they maybe we weren't as strong as we'd like to be. So at the end of last year, we met in teams and our teachers spent a lot of time looking at it. What are the priority standards and discussing each standard? So what were the priority standards that maybe our kids didn't succeed as much as we'd like to during the school year? Maybe because it was COVID, or maybe it was just a tough challenge that we weren't able to go back and review. So we went over this last year and went over to the content teachers, the SPED teachers, and then we discussed prerequisite skills. And here's some questions the content teachers asked. So they looked at, based on the data analysis, which priority standards are you the most concerned about students struggling with going into the next grade level or course? And how much time did you spend teaching those standards? What did your data tell you? Did you assess the standard? When did you assess? So our teachers did all this last year, which we call a flashback priority map. And our content teachers reviewed and went through all this information in order to prep for the standards that they're going to teach this year. The next piece that we have is the priority standards map, where our teachers really dig into these priority standards and make sure that they have the same common definition between classes, ELA or math. So you can see here, okay, what's the topic? What's the priority standard? What are the learning targets created from the priority standard? Discuss the prerequisite skills and the essential vocab of the standard. And then the pacing. How much time do you need to spend teaching this standard? Did they learn last year? If not, let's add some more time. And then when will we teach it and when will we reassess it? So that's pretty awesome. This is our document that we use, our teams use. We used it back in June. And then you can see here some of the tips that we put in here, how you can research, examine, discuss, and unwrap standards, how to create targets for the students. Here you can see some examples of the standard turned into learning targets. Like here, it says cite textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says. And a learning target is I can cite evidence from the literacy text to support my analysis. Okay? And then the last thing is, which our teachers are doing this week, create priority units, which I'm going to get into in more detail in the next PLC Insider. But here you can see it basically looking at what are the priority standards and unwrapping those into learning targets. So what are the key standards we're going to work on in the next 4 weeks? What are the most important standards we're going to work on over the next 4 weeks? What's the cognitive demand? So that means if we're teaching a standard that has kids explain, if they said that's the cognitive demand, kids have to do that in the class. So the assignments have to match the level of demand of the standard. And then our teachers look into this and we map out a month together. And so ELA will work together, math will work together. And then they make sure that we plan out the entire month along the way. So families, I just want to thank you again for joining us for the PLC Insider, just taking you in a little bit into what we do. You can see some of the documents. You can see what the teams are doing in order to make sure all of our students are learning at high levels. But priority standards are the key, and our teachers are doing a lot of work with those standards. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day.